Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 333 of the Stacey West Podcast. We're halfway towards the Devil's number. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by Gaz. How you doing, mate? You keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad at all. I like that. Half the way towards the devil, so the original pranksters get back together for a podcast.
Absolutely. It's like 666 and 668, the bloke next door. There we go. What have you been up to, mate? You keeping well?
Yeah, not so bad. I know a few people are wondering why we're going live up against England. Reality is, I couldn't care less, to be honest, about the Nations League or England. It's the EFL trophy of the international football world, and let's face it, international football is dying. It really is. The most interesting international football matches are the ones that are happening right at the bottom, like the San Marinos and the Gibraltars and all Liechtensteins. I like all that. But like, oh God, England versus Republic of Ireland. Wow, that's going to be great, isn't it? So 7 people seem to agree with us, unless they're dual watching.
Well, I did consider possibly having it on, as a second screen, but even then, I'm just not that bothered about international football at this point. When it's like you say, these little friendly competitions, essentially, it's not for me. I don't think it's for me.
I can understand it. It's better than playing friendlies. But I mean, it'll bring us on to another conversation later on. But the international breaks, there's too many of them for what is essentially pointless games, and people aren't as interested anymore because the World Cups. It's what is it going to be like 48? There's only 100 or whatever countries. You have to be really crap not to actually go to the World Cup. Whereas the Euros, it used to be 2 groups of 8, so it used to be something that was hard to get into. And when you actually got into it, it used to be something that was then challenging while you were there, which is why we were always crap. Now you've got the Euros, and it's like you collect the sticker albums. It's like Albania. Come on, do you know what I mean? When I was a kid, we used to put 6 or 8 past Turkey every month. And now, it's for me. It's international football's not really something that interests me. When the Euros and the World Cup come around, I watch it, but I'm not going to sit and watch Ireland. And besides, we've got to record at this time because Chris has obviously got a domestic emergency and had to drop out. You've had a domestic emergency because you've had IKEA boxes, which is an emergency in my eyes. So you could only do a certain time. I can't do it after 6:30 because Fee's cooking my dinner very kindly. So we just had to make sure we hit that sweet spot.
Yeah, it was just kind of the only time, really. And of course, Charlie's probably sunning himself in, well, maybe a sunbed at this point in the evening, but he's obviously in Jib. So you're with the originals today. So never mind England. It's like Richard Godson's got a repeat of Downton Abbey on in the background. That's not
very
bad.
middle
Cuban
class.
Run and Stacey West laying on the sofa. Can't get much better than that.
It's very middle class. I've got a repeat of Downton Abbey on, don't you know? But yeah, no, I'm actually knackered as well because yesterday, I mean, you and I haven't spoken for a while, but I run. I mentioned it once.
Dear.
Yeah. And I have set myself a target for next year, which more will be revealed on Tuesday. So we'll sit on that, but people need to pay attention to the site and other places on Tuesday. But I ran my first half marathon yesterday. It wasn't official. It was literally me plotting out a half marathon route and going, do you know what? I'll run that. And then I ran it. And do you know the worst part of it? The road takes me right past Belmont Tower. So literally the road and then the aerial.
Yeah.
It gives me the willies. Because for those who listened the other week at Munch and Gladbach, I get it's all to do with heights and open spaces. I have this insane phobia. Like I could be in a glass bottomed helicopter, no problem whatsoever. If I'm on the floor and it's a wide open space and the only thing that I can see other than flat wide open space is a huge, great big aerial, I get this funny tickling feeling at the bottom of my spine.
I am exactly the same. Genuinely, it's really bad. Like I'm fine with like all sorts of stuff like roller coasters and you say like planes, all sorts, anything like that is fine. But as soon as it's like a very high, just a height where there's nothing else there, you're like, oh no, I'm not a fan of this.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I couldn't run past it at night with the lights. That would just be a massive no. But I had to run past it during the day, and I actually pulled my hood up to one side, like kind of half blinker myself, and I knew it was there. And what makes it worse is the wires coming down into the field. And yeah, honestly, I get to there. That was about 5K, and bear in mind it's 21 and a half, but I did 22K for a half marathon distance. After that was fine, and also that's up until that point it's all hills. And then you cross the Case to High Street, and it's more or less like nice, gentle, steady incline. I mean, okay, it was 16 kilometers of nice, gentle, steady incline. But anyway, so there we go. But yeah, keep an eye out on Tuesday, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls. Can't tell you any more than that.
No, it should be very exciting. So, but yeah, look, it's we're about 5 minutes in. Should we get onto some football?
Do you know about football? Yeah, we can do that if that's what you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I know a little bit.
Do you?
Well,
You've kept that hidden for 333 episodes. Oh, it's good to be back, actually. Yeah.
I was wondering when it was going to start. There we go. So look, I mean, yeah, obviously heading down to Exeter for an early kickoff on a Saturday is not particularly the best use of time for quite a lot of people. So fair play to those. I think I saw some people heading off at like 4:30 in the morning to get the train and everything. So yeah, long old trip down. I think you said on the podcast on Wednesday with Charlie that you were not fearful of a defeat, but it was potentially on the cards, and I think you sort of both settled on probably a draw for the game. So I mean, going into it and then obviously seeing the lineup. I mean, the lineup, I think it was kind of as expected. At this point, the only real surprises are who starts up front. And obviously, we have Ben House and Bailey Cadamartri starting on Saturday. But on the whole, yeah, it was, as I say, as we expected. I think it was nice to see Okoro getting a spot on the bench after his standout performance on Tuesday in the trophy. So that was a nice, good spot for him. But you could see why you were saying on Wednesday about maybe not anticipating the easiest game, because I mean they've kept 9 clean sheets now after yesterday in 14 games. It's a really tough place to go, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much about that. It was more the narrative that they managed to create with the international call-ups, which, I said before, and I'm not going to go into it again. I do think it was unfair. They had 3 players called up. They should be able to call it off. I think, as Chris pointed out on the podcast, or pointed out while we were playing pool, the fact that it wasn't called off was nothing to do with supporters and short notice. It was all to do with Sky television cameras, pure and simple. So I felt they created a narrative whereby they could lose the game and still come out of it smelling of roses, because it'd be, oh, look at us. They create like a victim narrative basically around the game. Whereas in actual fact, when you look at the injuries that we have, and you can't postpone a game for injuries, I buy that. But you look at, I mean, it's accepted now. Adam Jackson's out, Tom Hamer's out, Tom Bayliss is out there. They're kind of the long terms. Everybody missed Rico Hackett being called up by St. Lucia. I never saw it on social media, on our Twitter at all. So that's another player down. Obviously, there's Tyler Walker long-term injured. I mean, it would have worked in our favour to have had this game cancelled. If it had been rescheduled for January, or which, looking at the fixture list, that would probably have been likely now. It would have been a January or February reschedule. We would have been in a much better position. And then, as it is, Freddie Draper is also injured, so he missed out as well. Eric Ring missed out. I mean, it was, and yet we were going there as kind of, when I say the big bad guys, we were going there as here they are, they're not playing us at full strength. Whereas actually Exeter were playing a very weakened version of us. Yes, like you said there's very few surprises. Actually, surprisingly, 9 minutes in, I do disagree a little bit, because the midfield was, how do we set up? Where out of possession, and we looked very much like we'd got 4 at the back again. Y-Scout are telling me it was a usual flat back 3, but Dom Jeffries was playing quite high. So yeah, I felt it was a little bit, I want to say patchwork. I'm not convinced that our midfield without Ethan Arahan is as strong as it could be. I know people have kind of claimed that Ethan being out of the side is a good thing. It isn't. So it's nice to see him back on the bench as well. And look, they've got decent players. For whatever we say, they've They've got good footballers. They were missing some good footballers, granted, and I think it showed that both teams were kind of a little bit under strength, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, when I say it wasn't a surprise, I mean it wasn't a surprise considering the circumstances that we had. I think it was, like you say, it was nice to see Iran back on the bench. But I mean, yeah, by the time the game kicked off, I think it felt like we'd gone almost back to what was probably called like functional football for the most part. I think Exeter had the best of it without creating too many chances. And in that first half, I think of the chances that were there, I think we probably had the best of them. And I don't know, I didn't feel aggrieved that it was 0-0 at half time, but throughout the half, I thought, I mean, there's a couple really the big shouts. We had 5 shots each in the first half, and I think there was the possession was, I think, 65-35 in Exeter's favour. But this is where I'd actually really like to see Chris's spreadsheet in action, where he's showing about where in the pitch we were playing and where we had the possession and who was, the field tilt as it is. Because it felt like we didn't really have any chances to knock on the door until all of a sudden we had probably 2 of the best chances of the game. So let's talk about Moylan's one first, the free kick. First off, when I've just watched that back, I don't think that was a free kick for us at all.
No, the ref was shite.
Yeah.
Inconsistent throughout for us and for them. Giving free kicks that weren't free kicks, ignoring blatant free kicks. Yeah, I think kind of we fast forwarded quite a bit. That I think they started the game relatively well. They looked like they'd got the wind behind their sails. I thought we were sloppy at times in possession, 1 or 2 passes going astray. I don't have an issue with some direct football at times. So people are complaining as if the direct football that we're playing now is the devil's work. We won League 2. Nobody really cared. We won the National League. It was supposedly the greatest thing we'd ever done. We got to the FA Cup quarter-final playing a much, much more kind of balls-out version of what we do now. We mix it up now, no doubt whatsoever. Sometimes we go long and people, all this bloody hoofball. And traditionally, we're talking about a team that all of our successes, almost all of our major successes, have been by playing direct football, and that's talking the same to a degree. Colin Murphy and to a degree Graham Taylor as well was relatively direct. So I don't have a problem with it when we go there and we try and get the ball to drop in the final third. Sometimes, okay, I buy the fact that it feels like it's a little bit too much, but I don't think it was. I just think they were getting on the ball nicely, and we had a certain approach. In terms of long passes, actually, in the first half, we played 19 and 8 of them were accurate. Exeter played 22 and 8 were accurate. So the perception that we were playing the long ball is wrong. People, but it's that Chris mentioned it all the time again. The second time we've referred to him, but it's something he always says about confirmation bias. People think we play the long ball, so when we clip it down into the channel, that's a long ball. But if we clip it 50 yards cross field and it lands at the winger's feet, that's a strategic 50-yard ping. There's very little difference. So, and they had a couple of half chances. There wasn't anything serious that we had to save. I've got 4 shots, 1 on target. I mean, stats differ from place to place for them. Can't remember it. I'm sure it was all right. Can't remember it. And then, like you say, there was the free kick, Jack Moylan's free kick. I actually thought, I think it was Ben House was being held when the keeper parried, but looking back, he wasn't. That was just.
Yeah, it was I mean, the way that it came in, I thought it was a bit audacious to have a pop from there. I don't know if it was intended as a cross that just got whipped in a bit too much, but it just escapes Lewis Monsma. I think if he'd managed to maybe get a touch on that, could have potentially lifted it over the keeper, but it then catches the keeper by surprise that Monsma's not got the touch. And it's a cracking save. Like I thought he had a decent game yesterday, their keeper. I thought he looks like he's going to have a decent career based on that. I think he that was easily probably the standout moment for him. And what I thought was good from their perspective is that he didn't immediately just parry it straight to somebody. He managed to find a gap with the parry and essentially get it out, and they then cleared from there. But
I think
like
that
you
was
say,
more luck than judgment.
well, yeah, but
I think he's just trying to parry it away. I think if Ben or Bailey were in slightly more advanced positions, they touch it, and the keeper's just got to make the save. It's instinctive and it's a good save.
Yeah. So, but then like you say, Ben House agonisingly close to getting a touch on that to put us ahead. But that was probably the first of our two major efforts on goal in the first half. The second one was an effort from Dom Jeffries. Now, this I thought was a really, really clever effort. The ball comes down, and normally, if someone's on the edge of the box, you just expect him to pull the trigger and smash it, put the foot right through it, and it'll either fly in the top corner or it'll end up in the car park. They're the two options that normally happen in that position. Dom Jeffries just watches it come down, and he just guides it onto his foot and just brushes it, and it's so close to going in. Like, if that had gone in, I think that probably would have been one of my favourite goals we'd scored all season, because it was just a really, really clever shot, and it just showed a lot of calm energy, I guess, to not snatch at it and just try and blast it in. But
he couldn't have put it anywhere else either, because their defenders had covered. My old man said, "Oh, he should be scoring that," but actually, if you watch it as he's hit it, the place where he's hit it is the only way it goes through without being blocked. So it was a decent effort. You obviously particularly loved it. I'd have loved it if it had gone in, but it was.
Well, yeah.
I thought I saw him lurking on the edge of the area, and it's like I said to Dad when the corner went in, it's Jeffries, Dom Jeffries, he's wanting this. So, but again, it was a half chance, and in terms of the actual XG, it was. I do love XG, as everybody knows, but it was pretty low. It was actually 0.09. So 11 times that shot can be taken and it would go in once.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think ultimately they were the two big highlights for me in the first half. And I think overall, like I say, Exeter probably had the better of it, but they didn't make anything of it. And it's something that I meant possession-wise. They had more of the ball.
Yeah. That's all they had. They had more of the ball. They didn't have the better of the game. It was just a dour first half.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, we say plenty of times, like, if you have possession, you need possession with a purpose. And I don't think Exeter really had that. It was just for the sake of having the ball for the most part. But yeah, I mean, there's one player in particular that I know you want to have a bit of a discussion about, because you mentioned him in your article, and that's Piers Sweeney.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go. That's probably all the discussion we need, is it?
No, because all right, I say cock. He's obviously not, because he's good at what he does. He's a Carl Beard, Piergiani type. He's a Paudie O'Connor type. He heads things away. He goes down when he needs to. But there was a really weak free kick. Yeah, he's a big lad. By the way, he's the most Devon-looking lad I've ever seen. He's Irish, but his face just looks so Devon, that kind of ruddy thing. And he's got a little bit of a Movember thing going on. He looks so Devon. But I thought he had a good game for them, but he shouldn't have been on the field. And there was the Ben House booking. Well, there was two instances. First of all, there was him and Ben House in a challenge. Ben gets booked for it. And when you watch it back, it's Sweeney's studs on Ben's legs. How do you get booked by getting studs on your own legs? I don't understand it. And then the other one was the clatter on Sean Rowan. And that, the more I watch it back, what really hacks me off about it, whether Ben House has committed the foul or not, the referee's blown the whistle, the ball has gone, and Sweeney has absolutely smashed into Rowan. Now, if the whistle's gone, for me, I can't understand how that's not a booking. I'll be honest, and people might shoot me down it. I can't understand that it's not a red card. If you launch into a tackle after the ball's gone, after the whistle's gone, it just utterly baffles me. And then I saw some Exeter fans saying, "Oh, Lincoln just came here to kick us all over the park." It's like,
We'll come on to it, actually, because Gary Caldwell's comments after the game were quite interesting. But it's something that Steve's just pointed out in the chat. He says he was calling for cards and waving and shouting, "Book him." I think that was shortly after the incident with that might be shortly after the incident with Rowan. But basically, there was an incident where there was a tackle that was not a foul. Ball goes out, and he's turning to the referee and he's waving his imaginary cards and he's saying, "Oh, book him. He needs to go in the book. That's a yellow card. That's a..." Well, it's not. And you asking for one, is it still in the laws that is a yellow card if you're pushing?
I don't know. They changed the rules so many times, don't they? They were meant to be outlawing blocking, but obviously it's still perfectly allowed. And look, I'm moaning about the ref. He was as bad for both teams because McGrandles should have walked. Because when you're on a yellow card, the second tackle that McGrandles puts in isn't good enough, and he shouldn't have got the first yellow card. It was just a really inconsistent refereeing display. The first time that Gary Caldwell took the ball into the dugout, I think one of our boys went to pick it up and he grabbed it. It was early in the first half, and Perkins was involved as well. He's a horrible little man by the looks of things. He's like a Richard Hammond. You're like me. You're a big Stuart Lee fan, and he does this great bit about Richard Hammond is just the horrible little coward that hangs off the corner of the big, just laughing at the jokes. And there's one point where the joke goes too far and he looks like a man trapped between two forms of cowardice. And I just saw David Perkins and I just saw that kind of Paul Rayner, Richard Hammond, yeah, get him, Jeremy, off the sideline. And it just, and you can't take the ball away like that.
No,
you can't break. You shouldn't be allowed to do it. The dugouts are close to the pitch, and for me, the red card later on should have for Perkins should have been for Caldwell early doors.
I think they said on the commentary that it wouldn't have been the first time that Caldwell would have been booked this season for a similar thing. So he's obviously got form for it, and it was. I just couldn't believe it when it happened. It's like that. If a player does that, we've seen it. Well, we saw it the other week, didn't we? If a player punches the ball down the touchline, they get a yellow card.
Yeah.
Why is that not the same?
There was something at Sinsel Bank, and I can't remember it, but it was a manager or a player was either booked or sent off for interfering with a throw-in. And look, to be honest, would it have made a massive difference if Caldwell had been sent off? No, absolutely not. It wouldn't have changed the game at all. But it's about that kind of consistency. The incident later on, and I didn't really see what happened. I think there was a few, if I'm allowed to say it was handbags at dawn, wasn't it? It was a little bit with Perkins.
Yeah, so it was exactly the same thing. He gets the ball goes out, he grabs it. We'll come on to it later, but he grabs it and he holds on to it and then he throws it into the dugout. So, yeah. Yeah, you're saying about,
but anyway, just inconsistent officiating throughout the game. He didn't make any. He made some decisions that affected the game by not sending players off. And Sweeney could have walked for the row, and McGrandles should have walked. And then the player, we'll come on to it, but the player he did send off probably didn't actually deserve it. So anyway.
We said we needed control of the game at half time. I think 0-0 was probably fair for the fact that it was an unremarkable first half of football. We needed control of the game. Enter Ethan Arahan, who has an immediate impact just by being Ethan Arahan, and started winding Woods up quite substantially.
That's a bit of a shame. That's the first thing to focus on when actually, and everybody's done it, so don't feel bad. But actually, he came on and was a calming influence on the ball in midfield, whether he was winding Woods up or not, and that's what turned the game. It wasn't about winding Woods up. He irritates everybody. Let's just mention the injury as well to Paudie O'Connor, because you talk about the victim narrative that Exeter set. We've lost our captain at half time for one of the few incidents where there wasn't any ambiguity. He's just gone down awkwardly and kind of slipped on the turf. So, again, it was like Stockport when we beat Stockport 2-1. 11 minutes in, you're a goal down, you lose your best player, Ethan Arahan, to injury. It's 0-0 at Exeter. They're already the victims in terms of the internationals. We've already got 6 or 7 out injured, and then my captain goes off as well. It's like, and it's not, if it was a striker going off, we've got strikers to. My old man used to say strikers to cobble dogs with. I don't know if that is a saying or if it was one that my dad used to get wrong. It wouldn't have mattered, but it's a centre half. It's, oh, come on, seriously now, you're taking the mick. Do you know what I mean? With a guy, Lewis Monsman's now playing more games. He was meant to be, we'll see how he gets to New Year. Now, we can't not give him a bloody contract, can we? Because we desperately need centre half.
That was a thought that came into me the other day. After the game yesterday, I was like, hang on. we've got Lewis till January, and we had conversations on the podcast about like, oh, do you think we'll keep him after that? It's like, well, yeah, like you say, at this point we've kind of got to, but it's not through necessity at this point. I think he will have earned it if it happens. Because again, I thought he was fantastic yesterday. The standout players we will come on to, but yeah, I thought Lewis was really good yesterday. And one of the things as well, I mean, Jack Moylan was causing trouble for them all afternoon, and he actually linked up with Irahan at one point, a little bit later on. But it was the sign of what Irahan was bringing to the table, because he was able to, just like say, bring that calming influence on and play through the way that we know that he can do. And it just felt like the temperature just got brought down a little bit when he came on, and I think he made the absolute difference.
How do you mean the temperature got brought down? Because it got the atmosphere
in terms
raised up.
No, he calmed it down. It was a bit less frantic, I felt.
Okay, sorry, yeah, you mean in terms of the actual gameplay rather than the atmosphere within the game?
Oh, yeah. In terms of the atmosphere, no, yeah. But so yeah, I mean, Woods then puts a challenge in on Irahan that is, it's probably a yellow card any time. I didn't think there was anything to complain about there, but it was at that point you started to see him really needling him and really starting to wind him up and get under his skin. You could see it happening, and I turned to Rachel, I said, It'll be sent off by the end of the game if this carries on. And sure enough, it happened. But there was, a couple more efforts as things went on. I think House had a really good shot after a 1-2 with Moylan, I think.
It was Rowan, Irahan and Moylan created the opportunity.
Yeah.
Good move.
Yeah, really good move there. And then there was another one from Ben House as well. Really, really vicious cross from Dom Jeffries, which
it was.
nearly took his head off.
My old man says, he goes, I should have done better with that. I'm like, how the hell did he do better with that? If it had gone any quicker, it would have gone through his skull. It was like a bloody bullet. And I get it. Do you know what? You fizz the ball in at pace, it can go anywhere. Rather, if you loft it, the keeper comes, he gets it. Whitworth's a good goalkeeper. I really liked him. I thought he was really, really solid. So you've got to smash it in there, and it's all Ben can do just to get his head on it. It's like, how do you expect him to do anything more with that at all? Just mental, yeah.
Yeah. So, but then, towards the end of the game, obviously started to change things up a little bit, and Jovon Makama comes on, and then there was the moment that I think has probably split opinion on this in terms of the game from what I've seen. So Moylan, I say, he's caused trouble all afternoon. Just jinks inside a little bit, does what Jack Moylan does, plays it to Jovon, who is on the edge of the box, and he misses the opportunity. And he puts the shot off target. So I've seen a couple of people saying, oh, if he scores that, we win the game. And it's like, well, technically probably, but it's not the reason that we didn't win. I don't know what it is with people. I mean, I've stayed off social media for quite a while, and I've seen your report on, your write up on the game today, and it's like 3 weeks ago, everyone was clamoring for Jovon Makama to be back in the team, and then today he's useless again.
Oh no, I don't think everybody. I think the people that want him back in the team and the people that are saying he's useless are two different factions, and you only hear one. You only hear from the people that don't rate Jovon Makama when he's missed, and you only hear from the people that do rate him when he hasn't. My first question would be, people are criticising Jovon. They won't criticise Jack Moylan because, well, they're not going to, because Jack's a top player for us now. But actually, if you pause it at the second he plays in Jovon, I'd argue Ethan Hamilton's in just as good a position. And if it comes out to the right-hand side, there's probably their number 3 is just about to, I'm looking at it now, he's just about to go to the ball. The boy they've got on loan from Brentford, the fullback, the defender rather, who was excellent for them as well. He's he's not coming to cover. So Hamilton's in a better position. And that was actually, I keep saying my dad, but the first thing my dad said was, he's gone to the wrong person. That's not a criticism of Jovon, but actually Ethan Hamilton was in a better position. But again, it's confirmation bias. We expect Jovon to be the one that misses the opportunity, and so he misses the opportunity. However, when he gets the ball again, therefore, if you look at when he strikes it, actually with their number 4, who's the lad from Brentford and the goalkeeper, he's not got a great angle, and actually Ethan Hamilton's in a great position again. So he's missed a chance. There's a question coming up about Jovon after the break, which I've got some stats and some numbers that we're going to talk through, because I think that it's only fair. That's not the reason we didn't win the game. If he scores it, we win the game. But if Ben scores his chance rather than shooting at the keeper, we win the game. So there's other missed opportunities. And I said in my write-up, actually, there was 6 chances for us that were 0.11 XG or more. And Jovon's was a 0.11 XG. So actually, there was 5 other chances that were equal to or better than Jovon's that we missed. But it's perception, or preconception, one of the two.
Yeah, probably a mix of the two. But then it all kind of started to descend into a little bit of chaos. You say David Perkins gets himself sent off, like Jabba's little mate sat on his shoulder, just hides the ball away, gets himself sent off.
Yeah.
In the rare flashes, I think that Exeter had of going forward, I thought we were really good defensively, as we have been most of the season. I think was it Mitchell, lad that came on for them? Thought he looked pretty decent when he came on.
Good player. Was at Blackpool, former Man United youngster. I've raved about Mitchell in the past. I think he played for Blackpool against us a couple of seasons ago. He's had a horrible time with injury, but he's such a good footballer.
I think there was a move basically as soon as he came on that could have caused us some problems. I think that was a quick 1-2. Came inside and didn't come to anything. But I thought he was. Thought he looked really good when he came on. But then, kind of just to wrap it up, Wood's second yellow. I think it was a. You said you didn't think it should have been. He should have been sent off. Why is that?
Because I don't think it was a yellow card.
Okay,
that's why. That was the obvious reason, isn't it? If he's on a yellow, and I don't think he should be sent off after another challenge. I just think, real time, it looked like a horrible challenge on Duffy. Actually, I think if you look at it back on the replay in slow motion, I think it's just harsh.
I think he does more damage to his teammate, to be fair.
Yeah, I think if that challenge was at the end of the first half and he's already on a yellow card, he doesn't get sent off. I think the ref's just taken an easy decision. I think he's hard done by. It's not just Ginger's union. I know we've got the goalkeepers union with Chris. I'm not just defending him, because when he was sent off, I was screaming and go on, and all that sort of thing. Actually, in the cold light of day, watching it back, if that's us, it's not a red card. It's not a yellow card. And I actually, when it happened, I screamed straight red, because in real time it looked bad, but it ain't. It wasn't.
No. Fair enough. Well, I mean, we'll briefly touch on the manager's comments before we head to a break. But Skabala says 2 points possibly gotten away. He thought first half Exeter edged it. We were in control second half. Maybe need to be a bit calmer in the final third, where ultimately it was a decent point with people moving around in terms of position, with Tendai going into centre-back and Don Jeffries coming across the right-back. And he said, hopefully it won't be too long for Paudy being out. He was frustrated with a point, but there's plenty of positives.
You've mispronounced Tendai's name. It's Super Tendai, but you don't. The super at the beginning, when you spell it, it's not spelt that way, but it's pronounced that way. It's the opposite. You know, if you have a silent like P at the beginning of it, this is an invisible super at the beginning. Just a word on him. He's outstanding.
Phenomenal.
He is
absolutely phenomenal.
He plays. I likened him in his demeanour to a Leon Bridcut, where nothing flusters him. He's just calm all the time. He shuffles around. It's hard to pick a man of the match. Moylan got it, I think, from Sky Television. Lots of general commentators have given it to Tendai. I thought Sean Rowan was outstanding once again. I think those three really stood out for me yesterday. Sorry, come on. Have we got some comments from Caldwell?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to give some of them the airtime that they deserve.
Because I haven't read them. I want interest.
So he says,
the gob shy, but
well, yeah. Says he knew it would be tough. That he thought that they were the better team in the first half without creating much, which is kind of the general consensus.
I can see it.
And then that they lost control the second half. Now, the thing that made me just think, oh, for God's sake, he was saying that kind of suggested that we were going down easy and the ref was giving away fouls when there weren't fouls, and not giving fouls when there were. And he said we were going to be. He expected us to be aggressive, but he didn't think we would be as aggressive as we were. And then he kind of went on to say, given the players that we were missing and yada, yada, yada. And like you say, kind of fed the narrative a little bit. And tiny violins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it felt like pots and kettles at that point when he was going on about that. But yeah, I just thought I found it interesting when he was talking about, they expected us to be aggressive and they thought we were too aggressive.
Well, we can be aggressive, but I don't think it's, I had a lot of respect for Gary Caldwell going into yesterday's game for the job that he's done there, and the number of times he's had to turn the squad over, and the resources that he's got, and the fan-led club, the international team. The way that he handled that was probably the way I'd like a manager to handle it. Let's turn it into something that protects my players and all that sort of thing. Probably all he's done on the way back out as well. He's made himself a little bit of a pantomime villain. Perkins certainly has, but that's what makes the world go round, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's all about heroes and villains. So.
I did find it quite funny because I think I mentioned it in our Discord chat yesterday that whenever you get a game that's on telly and they have the multi cameras and they zoom in on the faces of people as the game's going on, it's always funny to try and lip read what's going on. I think at one point Sean Rowan was having a bit of banter with the linesman with some words that I probably wouldn't be able to repeat easily on the podcast without getting shouted at. And then when the incident happened where we thought Caldwell should have been at least booked, you could see him. He kept saying "sit down" repeatedly to our bench, and then I think at one point he says, he called somebody a big brave bellend.
I actually noticed the lip reading because there was one point where Pordy was given a free kick against Pordy, and it wasn't a free kick. And just 3 times he turned to the ref, and I'll say the words. It was, how the fuck is that a free kick? 3 times in a row. Is that a free kick, ref? And then, you know what? And we criticise referees, but they do have to put up with that. And I didn't think yesterday's referee was particularly good, but my God. Imagine having to put up with 22 bloody man babies on the field. And there was the calls where Exeter are claiming our ball. And it's clearly not. Do you know what I mean? It's clearly come off their boy. And then he's going, our ball. And the ref has to deal with that. And it's probably the unseen part of the game. And we were talking a couple of weeks when we went to Chesham about when you're at pitch side, you don't realise the pace of the game. And you probably don't realise just the amount of kind of misdirection that goes into a game as well. So anyway, we ought to go for a break really, Ben, didn't we? I mean, we're 37 minutes in now.
Absolutely, yeah. So, right, we'll scoot off for a quick break. I don't know if you've recorded any bespoke ads at the minute, but no? Okay. Well, it will just be a standard set of ads, and then we'll come back in a couple of minutes. Right. Who's in on the YouTube chat at the minute? Go on. Richard's in. Moynes' performance caught the eye, but Tendai just wow. Yep.
Agreed.
I don't think we said hello to Neil earlier.
Neil, hello.
There we go. And Steve's in. Sorry, I'm late, guys. Just in time, Steve.
Yep, for the second half.
Yeah,
and let's face it, you were just in time for the second half yesterday. You would have got the best half.
Absolutely.
There we go. What's the England score? I don't really care, but shall we have a quick look? What do you reckon, Ben? You can have a guess.
It's 0-0.
Okay, well, you're not having a guess. You're actually going to tell me.
Although we have just had a penalty appeal, apparently. Sammy Schmodix chases a ball into the box and then goes down after a clash with Kyle Walker.
There's a surprise.
There's a surprise. Yeah.
Sammy Schmodix going down in the box. Wow. Honestly.
Oh, dear. Right, we ready?
Rogers playing.
Let's have a look. Lineups.
No, he's not. He's on the bench. Who the hell is Livramento?
I don't know.
There's players in the England team, genuinely, I've never heard of. L. Hall, T. Livramento, N. Maduki. Never heard of him.
Not a penalty. Surprise. There we go. Right, let's come back in. And there we go. Thank you to our sponsors for the week. So, given that there's no game on Tuesday, we thought we'd put the fairly regular shout out to our patrons in our Discord, and then we have a bit of discussion about them. So first up, A question from Lee in the Discord. He says, how many goal-scoring chances has Jovon missed this season? And maybe a comparison to others. And he does have a follow-up as well. So I'm going to hand over to Statman.
Well, he's not here, so I will have to do.
Statman Gaz.
I do. Now, these stats, the only disclaimer I will give here is that these stats do not include FA Cup, because for some reason I assume it's to do with rights. Y-Scout do not have the first round of the FA Cup numbers. So this does not include the FA Cup first round. That's the disclaimer that I'm going to give. So let's have a look at a few of the actual numbers. So first of all, shots per 90, because I think in terms of missing shots, we also have to look at things like the cumulative number of shots and all of this sort of stuff. And typically at that point, Y-Scout has gone down. It looks like I'm looking up, but it's just because it's easier on my bigger screen. So actually, if you look at the number of shots, this is important. Per player, there are 7 players that have taken more than 10 shots. Now, we can play a little game if you want, Ben. Which player do you think has taken more shots than any of our others over the course of this season?
Ooh.
11 more than his nearest rival and more than double fourth downwards.
Oh, I'm going to say Jack Moylan.
You're going to be right. So Jack Moylan has had 33 shots this season. Ben House 22, Bailey Cadamartri 18, Freddie Draper 15, and then Paudie O'Connor and Jovon on 13 apiece. So it's important to remember that. Jovon is taking shots and he's in the top 5 in terms of number of shots taken. Now, if we then look at percentage on target, there's a couple of outliers because the top 2 have only taken 3 and 6 shots apiece, which is Zane Okoro and Sean Rowan. So in terms of percentage on target, of the players that have had double-digit shot numbers, which I think is a fair reflection, I think if we say 10 or more, you start getting an indication of accuracy. So in terms of 10 or more shots, which player do you think is the most accurate in terms of shots on goal? Now, bear in mind, that might not be most dangerous. It could be a trickler through to the goalkeeper. But one player has got 53.85 of his shots on target.
I'd probably say Ben House.
It's Jovon Makama.
Okay.
So, and bear in mind, that's not with the FA Cup where he actually did score a goal. So he is the most accurate. After that, in terms of double digits, it's Bailey Cadamartri, 18 shots, 50%. And then Ben House, 22 shots, 45%. Jack Moylan, his 33, 39%. Now, in terms of numbers, by the way, of actual shots on target, that does make a couple of players above Jovon, but as a percentage, he's more accurate. Now, there is a goal conversion, or would be a goal conversion if my screen hadn't just gone down. So we'll go on to goals to XG. And this is the one that is pretty damning. So there is a goals to XG stat, which I've queued a tweet up, so I won't ruin that. But the player who is at the very bottom of the goals to XG stat for us is Jovon Makama. So it does suggest that he has missed better chances than he should have done. His goals to XG is minus 1.11, which basically means he scored, I think it's 3 goals, but could have scored, for instance, 4.1. And then we'll pick up the final one because my screen has now come back, which is goal conversion. This is as a percentage is goal conversion. So it's shot to goals, etc. Actually, Adam Jackson and Tom Hamer are the top 2 for percentage conversion. Then Bailey Cadamartri with 23%, Conor McGrandle, Freddie Draper, Ben House, Rico Hackett, then Jovon. So below Jovon, Rob Street, JJ McKiernan, Jack Moylan. So in actual fact, Jack Moylan does miss chances and converts fewer of his chances than Jovon does. So there is a degree of the kind of confirmation bias again in that Jovon has a shot, we expect him to miss it. There are a couple of outliers, bear in mind, there is the penalty. So actually that's a goal for Jovon when it's a 0.74 or 0.75. So it does work slightly in his favour. I'm not going to deny that some of his finishes he could have done better. Not going to argue that. Hopefully that kind of partly answers a question. But I also feel that he is more maligned than perhaps he should be. Bear in mind, we're talking about a 20-year-old again here. You know, we're not talking, he's not 22, 23. He's still developing. I just think I find it really harsh.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question that Steve just asked here. He says, do these discussions help young players' mental states? I think when you have a discussion that's reasoned and you know, sort of grounded in the facts, which is what we're trying to do here, I think you can take it in a way that will be perceived as constructive criticism rather than just he's shit.
I'm not criticising Jovon here.
No, I know you're not. I'm just saying that, like, when we have a discussion like this, it can be a positive one for going forward. But when you have, I'm assuming Steve means the discussions around.
I think it means the general discussions on social media where people are having
discussions on social media. So stuff like that, no, it's not going to help. If it provided that he sees it, I mean, we know the club are quite good in terms of the protection that's offered for the younger players in terms of the social stuff, and just saying, look, essentially try not to let it get to you, sort of thing. But yeah, it's an interesting one for that one. And Lee's follow-up was actually, how many of them has he created himself, and had he scored 50% of them, would the moaners be singing his praises? It's, again, I don't know if you can get that granular with the stats as to how many he's created himself. No, okay.
No, it's difficult. Certainly not the numbers that I've got here. It's particularly difficult. I think he has created more efforts himself than some of our out-and-out centre forwards, but it's hard because what do you class as creating a chance yourself? For instance, there was Bailey Cadamartri at either Peterborough or Cambridge where the ball's come across and he's rolled it round his chest. So it's a pass that he's controlled it and then set himself off. So has he created that chance himself, or has the pass assisted?
Yeah, it's not a direct assist, is it?
No, but there isn't any way to say how with a stat that says it's been created itself, because you can create a chance by movement and then the pass picks you out, or you can create a chance by closing down and challenging and winning the ball. What I think, probably just to answer Lee's question, I think that Jovon works incredibly hard. Nobody gifts him the ball. He isn't missing chances on the edge of the 6-yard area. He's had to make the run on Saturday to get ahead of Jack Moylan to have the ball played to him, as Ethan Hamilton has the other side. So, you know, essentially, I think 90% of chances are probably made. Striker makes them himself anyway. And that's why when people say to me, well, Bailey would have scored that, and I'm not criticising Bailey Cadamartri because he's got, 5 goals. I think he's our leading scorer at the moment. So I'm certainly not criticising him. But in actual fact, I've lost my train of thought now. Oh, yeah, no, that was right. It's easy to say, would he have scored it? But when he was on the field, he didn't have that opportunity in order to score it. So has he then not been in the right position at the right time? Jack Moylan's free kick palmed across the 6-yard area. So a slightly better position, and it's a tap-in, whether it's for Bailey, whether it's for Ben House, whether it's for Jovon. So when that save's made, would Jovon actually have scored it? Because would his positioning have been different to Ben House and Bailey Cadamartri's? Comparison, trying to compare and saying Bailey would have scored that is virtually impossible, in my opinion. Easy, indeed, but lazy.
Yeah, well, I think you've said it a couple of times in articles and elsewhere recently. Comparison is, Gary,
the thief of joy.
There we go. Absolutely,
it is. As I live by.
Yeah. So,
Chris told me the other day, just by the way, and I think this is one. If Jovon does listen, and I'm sure he doesn't, but if he does, this is one Chris told me the other day, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. Never accept criticism from somebody who you wouldn't ask advice from.
Oh yeah,
I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's why I only take criticism from you, Gary. No,
never asked me for advice.
No, but I would.
Would you? So you're saying you've never needed advice in the last 8 years?
I've asked you for advice on a few things, and you just turn around and take the piss.
Yeah, I know. But no, I gave you that cream to clear that up.
I didn't want to talk about that. That's not advice. That's not advice. That's topical. Right.
That was what you said. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So next question. comes from Lady Bayimp in the Discord, and he says, would you like to see the international break extended to League One on a permanent basis, as opposed to just the games being picked up as and when? Now, I'll let you answer first, because I think, well, my answer is probably one that you're going to just maybe roll your eyes at, but go on, guys. What do you reckon?
I'd like to see fewer international breaks, and then yes, have it extended throughout the professional game. And I can't remember, I was discussing this with the other day, but actually, do you know what? I would prefer if they just said, right, we'll play all the international games in a 2-week window. So we'll have 2 weeks off, Saturday and Saturday. All the international games can be played there. You could get 4 internationals into that little thing. And then that's your autumn international break done and dusted, and you don't have any more. If you have to play international football, and we have to have this bloody Nations League, we have to have the qualifiers, and we have to have this, we have to have that, just make it all happen a lot quicker. Like, it's almost like tournament football, but we're asking too much of our players. Do you know what I'd rather see? I'd rather see us do away with the Nations League, just do international qualifiers and tournaments, do away with international friendlies, because they're crap. Friendlies are all crap, basically. I hate our friendlies. I hate international friendlies. The only friendlies that I can handle are ones that I'm maybe playing in, because at least that way I might not get tackled as hard.
Yeah, I think I agree completely. I think the number of international games, considering the fact that the Premier League have turned around and said, well, we need to get rid of replays in the FA Cup first round because we're playing too many games in games that they're not going to play in, and then they're quite content to not kick off about international breaks. It takes the piss a bit, really, doesn't it? And then as to it being extended to League One, I think absolutely. I mean, there were 3 games yesterday. What's the point? Like, there's just no point for having players that are going to be called up for internationals. I mean, like you say, the fact now that we've got the Euros, for example, is opening up to so many different teams. We're going to have World Cup qualifiers that are opening up to however many different teams. More and more players are going to get called up for smaller nations across League One, potentially League Two as well. It's just doesn't make sense to have like 3 games at that weekend. So yeah, I think the international break should be extended across League One, but the way to potentially solve it, just have fewer internationals.
Yes, you've got just have fewer internationals. And I'll tell you something else I do, and it might lead into another question, but I've said this, I don't know if I said it on the podcast before, but the BSM Trophy, play 2 of the games as part of your pre-season warm-up.
Yeah.
Play those in July, under 21, and then one of your local teams. And then it frees up some midweeks. And then if you had to, you could shift some Saturday to kick off the midweeks, and you could create your international break. I think the integrity of competition is brought into question, even if a club is missing one player. So, like us missing Rico Hackett, okay, we've got Don Jeffries or we've got Dylan Duffy, we can cover that left wing back position. It's not the point. Would Rico Hackett started yesterday? Yeah. So if he would have started the game and an international team have called him up, we are at a disadvantage. Exeter were at a massive disadvantage with 3 players called up. And who's to say that if we'd been at full strength, they would have won the game, let's say. So that affects. I'm not saying they would have done, but what I mean is they would have been 3 players better off. We had players injured which wouldn't get the game cancelled. So actually they would have been at a huge advantage to have a nearly full strength side. So that could cost them 2 points. If they miss out on the playoffs, and they will, by the way, but if they miss out on the playoffs by 2 points, it'll be more than 2 points, but they would have every right to say, well, hang on, when everybody else played Lincoln at home, they had full strength side. So why couldn't we have had a full strength side? So as far as I'm concerned, it's all or nothing. Even if you just extend it to League One, but very, very soon, League Two teams are going to be having international players. International football's more widespread. Players are getting better. And there's when I say new nations, the likes of Gibraltar now have more games. Back in the day, it used to be nobody from Liechtenstein or Luxembourg played in the English leagues, and you might have the odd Maltese international. But now, you're getting Nick Townsend turning down a Caribbean side. I can't think who it is that he was called up for, but he missed games for him earlier in the year and has turned that down. If you're Rico Hackett, you get called up for St. Lucia. Why would you turn it down? Week in the sunshine, Yeah, thank you very much. I'd have that all day long. So yeah,
Be nice in the middle of November, wouldn't it?
Yeah, wouldn't it just?
And then we've got one final question from Lady Bayimp in the Discord. He says, who would we want next in the BSM trophy?
Aston Villa under 21s at home.
All right, that'll do.
Progression. There was two teams. I think I looked at the northern section, and the way it's done is it's a pain in the arse because you can't draw everybody. There are some teams that you can't draw, even though you're in the northern section. So you can't just not draw southern section teams, but you can also not draw certain teams. But for me, it would be either Morecambe or Aston Villa under 21s at home because they are the most winnable games. I think Tranmere maybe as well. But you don't want a Bolton or a Blackpool or somebody like that. I don't want any of those at this stage of the competition because you want to progress. I want to see Zane Okoro play. I want to see Saxon Early potentially play. I want to see Rob Street get some minutes. So we want to go deeper in the competition. So you just want the easiest ties. Because the fact is, like in the FA Cup, you can look at it and go, oh, we're going to go to Cheshire away, or it's going to be we can host whoever, get a big tie. There are no big ties in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy until the final. There aren't, are there? So you've got Bolton at home. Well, whoopie-doo. We are one of the very best teams left in the competition because we're top 6 in League One, and there's nobody above us in League One. There's only one under 21 team, by the way, left in the competition. And for me, it would be phenomenal. Not only did we stop an under 21 team from getting to the final a few years ago, it'd be nice to kill off their interest in the second round as well. So yeah, let's kick Aston Villa under 21 bums. Move on.
I'd take that. I'd take that. So right. Well, that's pretty much it in terms of patron questions. I don't think we've got any in the chat today.
There was something I wanted to pick up on from Harry Jackson. Harry said some criticism I've heard levelled at Jovon his lack of winning headers. He has won some. He's 20 for a striker. He's young. He has 10 plus years in the game to go. Give him time and be patient. So I did actually look at aerial duels 1 per 90 across our squad, and quite right. Yeah, Jovon is particularly low with 18.75. In fact, only Saxon Early has won fewer percentage of his headers at 16.6. Worth noting, by the way, that Bailey Kadamatri's aerial duels won is 20.99, only marginally better than Jovon. Rob Street's is 21.21 and Freddie Draper's is 28.71. So there's 4 strikers there at the bottom of the aerial duels won. And I think that probably kind of denotes the fact that they're coming up against big centre halves who win headers. Steve can hear background noise. Is that me?
I think I think you might be going through your headphones. I've heard a little bit of scratching.
Oh.
But yeah, it's all right. We can hear you. It's all good. I think just to go back to Jovon briefly, I think the key thing to remember, as we do all the time, as we say all the time when it comes to younger players, is that he is a younger player. Like he's not going to be. I've seen some people suggest, Man United can start a 17-year-old. How come we can't do the same thing? It's like, because that player will be worth a hell of a lot more money than Jovon Makama will. That's the reason that young player is playing in the Premier League, because he can do stuff. He can do things like that and play at that level. The fact is that we have obviously a few years ago, but we have a 20-year-old now that isn't going to be able to be at that level. So yeah, if he could, he'd be playing in the Premier League. That's ultimately where we are with it. So
apologies for the sound there. Apparently my StreamYard has connected my microphone on my headphones, and I don't normally have a microphone on my headphones, but I bought new headphones, and literally 6 months later they packed in, so I've gone back to the old headphones that have the microphone on it that occasionally override my StreamYard. So apologies for any bad sound quality. I'm sure Ben will be able to clear it up in Audacity.
I'll try. But no, look, I think that's probably the majority of the discussion topics for the day. We have any other business listed in the description. Do we have any other business, Gary?
No.
Okay.
But do keep an eye out on Tuesday on the Stacey West channels, and you never know, maybe the official club channels as well for the same time. We'll see.
I was going to say, I think I'm due to due to see you on Tuesday as well. So
yes, and it's actually my birthday on Tuesday, and it's going to be quite a sad day because it is Hoppo's funeral. So I'm going to go to that in the morning and then pay respects in the Legends Lounge in the early afternoon. So yeah, sad day.
Oh well, and then you get to see me. So yeah, well, Richard Godson says thank you. Godson rather says thank you for an interesting hour. Steve is also saying it's interesting. So I think that is probably a decent spot. That has been halfway to the number of the beast, episode number 333 of the Stacey West Podcast. I've been Ben. That's been Gary. We'll see you Wednesday as we look ahead to the Wycombe game. But until then, as always, up the imps.
Up the imps.